Yeah, just doing a quick update on the Big Rippa, uh, New Jersey riptides just in general. Um, Never. First of all, you should never swim without lifeguards present, especially like I've said. I can't stress enough how many times I've seen people enter the water, and I just watch them swimming. And if they run into anything like I felt out there near the Big Rippa, um, yeah, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be really bad. And usually the problem is with situations like this, it's never happens where one person swims out by themselves. It's usually a group of guys, and then they all have that similar stroke where they don't have the experience, and then I automatically can make the association that whether or not they're gonna make it. Right? It's just like night and day. Like it's just like if I see someone take a couple strides and tell them to run for like 30 seconds, and I could probably look at their form and analyze them. I'm like, they're not going to be able to keep up with me if I race them. So it's almost like a type of, it's a type of thing where you could just measure someone's skill, whether they're going to make it or not, if they do run into that really hard rip current, that exists out there. Because it does, the funny thing about this particular rip current is that it usually is like slowly working its way from north to south. I've realized it starts about 100 yards down, and then as the tide is changing, it creeps from like the Seaside Heights into Seaside Park area, pretty much like right on that borderline, like where you see those, like lately, where this spot is if you see a bunch of like 4 or 5 posts, like that you would find like pilings of a pier just sticking up out of the sand, and you see all those blue awnings on that kind of like private beach right in front of the sawmill adjacent with that. Like, yeah, that's the area that I'm trying to highlight that can get very dangerous. Now, rip currents can form anywhere, and I'm pretty sure there's like blind spots in places where I don't even know. But like, yeah, I'm gonna say today, if you were out there swimming and you didn't want to pay attention to the lifeguards and all that, your hardest currents are going to start probably pulling around 7 o'clock to 8:30. That's why I'm not going to make a long video today. And then tomorrow I might not even make a video, because if those rip currents do start picking up, I mean, you could have an incident at any time. That's what, it's not the reason why I'm putting this out there, is because I know that if that pull feels anything like it did back near the 4th of July, yeah, you could be putting yourself or a loved one in danger just by being out there in that area. So you want to really pay attention to what's going on if you're swimming. I'm not sure if that's a south wind out there. So if that is a south wind, it may push you into the current. It may push you into the rip current. So yeah, if you get down to the beach and the wind is, if you're ever getting a hard south shore wind, you got to be careful with that too, because that will push you into a rip current. A lot of times you don't even know about that side current, and you get out and you don't even know where you ended up or left off. So that's one thing. And yeah, I don't know if storms are due this afternoon, but you also want to pay attention to the storms out there as well. This specific spot that I'm literally highlighting, actually, I believe it has an incident that occurred. Like I see there's a tribute on the window of the sawmill, and I remember hearing about this like a year or two ago, of a guy that ran out on the beach trying to warn some kids or people to get off because there was lightning coming, and he was the one that got struck by lightning. So there is a little memorial for that guy that I saw on the window of the sawmill. So yeah, in that area you got to be careful. It's just, and I know at least a few people unfortunately didn't make it out of the Big Rippa, that area. So, just putting that kind of knowledge out there. And rip currents can form anywhere. This is just where I know a bad spot is. And if you're a lifeguard and you have something like this happening on your beach, I urge you to put the news out there, because somebody may go when you're not around. So if you have a blind spot on your beach, you may want to add something to social media like this to be like, you know what, I'm pulling in, I'm feeling something different in the water when I'm working on the beach every day, right in this spot between this. So even if you're a lifeguard and you're making saves throughout your day, which a good lifeguard shouldn't be making too many saves at all. You just keep the people up into their knees and be like, they're not going to be able to handle, what's out there. But if you do know of a bad spot, just highlight it, and it might be worth it to just put out a few things to be like, yeah, this is a bad spot. I've had to pull, like, you're getting out in your water and you're feeling your water. Well, what happens when you leave? Like, of course, somebody may not know of that area, and maybe putting it out on social media being like, yeah, I know 5 people that passed here. I know I can't, like the Big Rippa, before I started even putting this news out there, I'm sure it has its tally out there. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if those numbers where people didn't make it might be higher than expected, but I don't have the research. I don't have those numbers. All I know is there was a local there, and I remember seeing the memorial like a year or two ago. They took it down now. I don't think that's there anymore. Of like 4 people in that same area, I believe he said 4 people in that same area in one summer that he knows, and he's not even down there every day. So that's just what I was trying to get out there. And I have 16 people in a week that got caught over there in that same area. So where I'm like, it was a life or death situation. So that's why I just keep trying to put this out. So the last hour today, maybe like 7 to 8:30. If you're out, you definitely want to pay attention. I don't think there's any big swells out in the ocean right now. I don't think there's any big storms really to worry about. Maybe just that south sweeping wind, and it is going to a new moon. I think it's around that phase, so that might give a little extra pull. And of course, I've been watching my earthquakes, paying attention. That's my other little thing. I've been nerding out lately. I've been falling asleep. Yesterday, I fell asleep with the monitors on just to see if anything, because I kind of nerd out on the earthquake thing too. I'm not really a forecaster, but like I've been following it, and I've been watching things kind of escalate as far as the seismic activity. I'm not like a real forecaster or whatever. Generally, what people do on YouTube, it's funny because I've watched that become a thing. Like, I've watched guys like Dutch. He was like one of the first major guys, and now you have all these scientists, people just jumping on that train and making a living just from being like, watching the solar flares and watching the plate tectonics and coming up with their own analysis, and whether the science backs it or not, they're just giving their take on what they believe, what might happen or what might transpire in that field, which I found very interesting. It's just something I find interesting because I've been following that on YouTube from the very beginning, and to see it now and see people just like the tornado chasers and all that, like how they're getting popular, those aspects of life, and that where you see people just kind of popping up and becoming successful doing that kind of work. So, all right, with that being said, I'm out.